Hello, friends. Hey, Merlin. See you later, Randus. Thanks for stopping in. Hopefully you'll be back later. But yeah, to it after Desert Bus. I'm actually only running on 4 hours of sleep right now because of insomnia, but we'll survive. So yeah, we got this here stained glass thingy mud bobber of Sora and his friends. I already did one of these before, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted it, so we are going to try something different, a different color scheme. And hopefully it works out better this time. So we're gonna get some, what is this, ultramarine blue and some white on the palette here and see if we can't make a nice muted dark blue to work as our base for this first outer ring. How's everybody else doing today? We surviving our Monday before the holiday? Survive through pure spite. Is that a theme of those games? I actually have never played Kingdom Hearts myself. I've just watched some clips of it, and obviously, impossible to get away from simple and clean and all the fan art. This is Vallejo Game Color. It's a standard hobbyist acrylic paint. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the pure spite of just making it through the day. So instead of what I've been doing before, which is just testing in production, we're actually going to, I cut off some pieces of wood earlier today so we can actually test our colors before we slap them down. Ain't that a novel concept? Yeah, just gonna spend the first little bit here trying to figure out what our paint is going to be for this first outer ring. I want it to not be too, flashy. So the plan for this is we're going to have two different muted blues on the outer rings, as well as throughout the rest of this painting. And then Sora is going to get full saturation colors so that he pops out more. Because I don't know, do I have... I might have tossed it out already. Oh, no, here it is. So I did this first attempt previously, and just everything is a little too colorful. It's really distracting from Sora, and I just don't know how it turned. I don't like how it turned out. So we're going to redo it with more muted colors, more uh, tints and shades to really bring it down, and then make Sora pop more. They see it. That's the idea. I like where we're starting here. We're just gonna start slapping this nice muted ultramarine around. We're gonna chill out, because I do not have the energy to be on this entire stream right now. I am liking this process that I've made of burn and paint. Since, as we've discussed, Merlin, the line art is usually the hardest part. Once you get that done, you just slap the colors in. Yeah, exactly. You can always add paint, you can't take it off, not with wood grain. One thing I also want to try later, or at least in later iterations, is to do second passes on the line art, so that the engraving or the etching that the laser does goes deeper. Not necessarily darker, but burns away more material, which makes the ridges more noticeable and easier to paint without accidentally slipping into the dark areas. Yeah. One other thing I want to try later, I don't know how well the camera's picking up, but you might notice that when I slop on the first initial brush load, the some of the more moist aspects of the paint like to soak into the grain and kind of spread out from where it's touching. And it's not too bad, given the fact that it's burnt in, so the wood grain actually ends at the burnt sections, so it can't spill over. But I would like to see if sealing with like a water-based polyurethane before painting gives me an easier surface to work on, especially if I want to blend colors more. Just something to try, something to iterate the process with. That being said, wood is classically a good surface for egg tempera, so maybe one day I'll try that too. Oh right, tonight and tomorrow. Done with the day job. That's exciting. But then how will you show off SJ Stream to the people in the library? Yeah, It is Thanksgiving, or at least Thanksgiving week. Funny enough, I came back from my PTO today, and everybody else started their PTO today because of they wanted to take the whole week off for Thanksgiving. So one way or another, I'm technically getting 2 weeks of PTO because nothing's going to happen these next 2 days. So ironically, I've already got more people asking me for commissions because, the holidays are coming up and people want Christmas gifts, and of course I post my work everywhere through the Discords just to get criticism and comments. But then people are like, "Ooh, I want those." I'm like, they're not exactly for sale, but I'll try to do a few for people. I've had 4 or 5 people ask about uh, getting wood burns like this done. Be probably more if I wasn't so explicit about the fact that I don't typically do commissions. And now for a test of my artistic ability. Getting the ratios of paint for a new mix because I didn't produce enough the first time. Welcome back, Randus. So it's sort of paint by numbers in that sense. What I did was I made some line art, or in this case particularly, I got somebody else's line art, and I laser burned it into this piece of wood and cut it out from the stock to make this circle. And then for the Zelda one, I did have a reference piece to work from in terms of what colors should go where. But in this case, I'm actually doing a custom scheme because the original reference photo, I didn't really like the color scheme. It was too blue. Everything was blue. Everything that wasn't Sora was blue, basically. And I didn't like that because, well, while I still want Sora to be the focus and to pop, I also want some deviation in color. And like I said, the first attempt I did with this did not come out the way I wanted to. Not at all. It just a little too much going on, a little too vibrant. I had blue, yellow, purple, green, pink, just a whole bunch of different colors, and some of them just clashed a little too much. So for this attempt, what I'm going to do is narrow down my paint scheme, my palette, to just center on the green side of the spectrum. Sorry, just a second. I am trying to talk through this while also trying to do my mixing. This part needs a little bit of concentration to get the right mix going again. Yeah, that's close enough. Where was I? So yeah, focusing specifically on the green side of the color wheel. So, every color has its adjacent colors, its complementary and supplementary colors, contrasts, and cooperative colors. So, you've got green, which is in pigment terms a secondary color of blue and yellow. So they all work pretty well together in that sense. And they don't differentiate so much. On the opposite side of the spectrum from green, you've got red, which contrasts pretty heavily, which makes things pop. But as I said, when you want one section to be more muted, more in the background, oops, I think I went a little too thick already on this piece. Because I was a little distracted. But yeah, you want when you want areas to be muted, you want them to all stay within the same 90 degrees on the color wheel, more or less, so that you do not get too much contrasting going on. I think I didn't get this mix exactly the same as the outer ring, so we're just going to go back over these other areas with the new mix so that they all match. So yeah, I am not running on a lot of sleep right now, and should be evident based on the fact we're already making mistakes, but hey, mistakes can be remedied. You can always paint it over it again. And it's always a learning experience because I can always just cut out another panel of this as long as I've got more wood. We can get back to it. Yeah, the Bob Ross special. Happy little accidents. I wish I could have slept last night, but like I said, it's insomnia from anxiety. I was having a bit of a rough weekend there. Hopefully it should be better tonight now that a number of things have been taken care of. But definitely was not something I could do this past night. I should get Kitty to help me set up Eorzea Hopebot on this channel so that y'all can use that command. Yeah, what I wouldn't give to be neurotypical. Seems so much nicer, doesn't it? So what's Randus up to today? Anything fun and exciting? Ah, rip. That's the worst feeling. I'm a big fan of the Bethesda style RPG games, and well, RPG games in general. And it didn't take long into my life of playing those games to realize that autosave is a much needed feature, and that should be on as much as possible, because there is no worse feeling than losing, 2, 3 hours, hell, even just losing 30 minutes of game time, especially through a difficult section, just because something went wrong and you didn't get the save uh, before exiting. Yeah, just those occurrences throw me out of a game so hard. I've even got my photo editors to save automatically every 5 minutes just in case. Oh, goody, yeah. The current bugs, I hear that's been a fun experience. I haven't been in the Pokemon scene for a while now. I think I stopped playing more or less. What was it? Diamond and Pearl, the DS games, because I didn't buy a 3DS for the newer ones. I think it was about the time I went off to college that I actually stopped playing just because of how busy I was. And no real time to pick it up now because I've already got so many other things to do. Being an adult and all my crafts and other video games. My poor Switch gathers so much dust these days. Definitely not a huge fan of having to mix my own colors. So I'm always afraid I'm going to miss something. And then when I go back to fill it in, I won't have the exact same color that I want. So we shall see. I'm going to use my larger brushes. Just scoop up a Yep. Evidently that area was full of water. Well, I guess we are just going to work with what we have over here then, because I messed that up. And we're just going to drop a little bit more white into this to make an even more dilute tone. Kind of going for like an icy blue here. We're just gonna that's usually, let's make sure we've got enough paint in here. I don't want to have to redo this again. Get some more of this blue that I've got sitting off to the side. A little bit more of this white. And really just load my palette up here. There we go. That ought to be plenty. Let's test this out. Let's see what color that gives us. It's a nice pale blue. Toss some contrast medium in there. Thin it out a bit. Get easier to work with. There we go. That ought to apply nicely. The contrast medium. So the contrast medium is actually kind of a DIY thing I've done to explain the origin. Contrast color is a type of product that um, Games Workshop, the people behind 40 Warhammer 40k, make. And what it is it's a miniature paint that is semi-translucent and uh, free-flowing. So some people would also describe it as a heavy body wash. And I don't like really supporting Games Workshop at all. They overprice everything. Uh, it's like twice as much as other competing companies for effectively the same product. So, in order to make my own variant of their contrast medium, um, the medium being the substance that the paint sits in, I made my own with a mixture of basically 50% matte medium, which you can buy in bulk from Liquitex, a major art manufacturer, and Flow Improver, which is basically surfactant for paints. And what this does is it adds both the translucency and free flowingness to any paint that you mix it in. It's not a perfect recreation, but it does help get that effect. And basically, I use it to thin most of my paints because it makes it easier to control just how thin your paint gets, because I'm effectively creating a baseline level of where I want my paint to be. So the more of this medium I add, the closer it gets to the thinness I want it to be, while also adding translucency so I can layer it better. So if you've ever heard anybody say thin your paints, that's basically what I'm doing, just with something a little bit more advanced than water. The one strange thing about working with titanium white paints, which are a particular type of white pigment, is that they always look so much brighter when they're wet than they do when they're dry. Like, I'm applying on this paint and it looks super bright, but within seconds it already fades to that dullness. But at first you're like, oh my god, it's completely different, just in the back of your mind. But then you go back and look at it just a few seconds later and everything blends in. So everybody um, has their own preferred ways to thin their paints. Some people will just use straight tap water, and that's fine. Um, I think it gets the job done for most things, and it's the cheapest option because it's tap water. Um, some people will scoff at the idea of using tap water. They'll only use distilled water because it doesn't have any mineral impurities that might affect the composition of your paint. But it's like, bruh, it's water. Unless you live in an area that's got a lot of chalk in your water, it's not going to make an issue. Then you've got people that will use very specific thinners, like airbrush thinner, which is a quick drying thinner. You've got people who like to use Flow Improver, which is a slow drying thinner. Uh, both of these affect how quickly your paint dries, which has its benefits and issues depending on what you want. Sometimes you want a slow drying paint so that you can do wet mixing with it. Sometimes you want it to dry quicker. um, so that you can work on the same area more quickly. Then other people like to use medium like I do because it gives you more control. Um, Obviously, it builds up texture faster because you're using more medium than water or solvent. But not necessarily the worst issue to have. Sometimes you actually even want texture to build up. But then other people even have crazier ideas about what to use. Like for a while there, I was even using a Windex to act as a surfactant, kind of like flow improver. And it worked to an extent, but you know, there are cheap options, and then there are options that work well. And going the extra little mile for a good, well-working solution, I think is usually worth it. Uh, let's go ahead. Use this icy blue here by the crowns too. And this kind of shows what I'm talking about with the more muted color array. We've got two different blues next to each other, and while they'll contrast an amount because of the difference of their tinting, um, they're not going to pop as much as if you, for instance, had a bright red next to this dark blue or an orange or something like that. And that's the effect we want. We want there to be detail, but we don't want distraction. Um, so it's not exactly the same. The outermost ring is a little bit darker, has less white in it than the inner ring. Originally, I wanted this color and this color to be the same, but had mixing issues, as previously mentioned. Um, so they didn't end up the same color, but we're going to work through it and hopefully it comes together in the end. But this area around the crowns here and the second ring on the outside are the same exact color because we did create enough paint, so I'm not going to have to remix it. Hey, Coyote. How are you doing today? Oh dear, Merlin, did you get a rush? Well, okay is pretty okay there, Will. Certainly better than worse alternatives. We'll take okay any day. Yeah, I spent the past couple days having some uncomfortable conversations with neighbors and police and people at work. So I'm very much happy to be on okay today rather than the way I was yesterday. Yeah, yeah, it's I missed submitting a time report on time um because of my vacation I was taking. I forgot to submit it early. And our company takes time reporting very seriously because it's how we bill our clients. And normally that's not as much of an issue, but I'd already missed one uh, a month or so ago, and that's two in a very short period of time. So the management got really concerned about it and wanted to make sure I realized how important it was that I submit them on time and how much trouble I'd be in if I missed it a third time before September next year. So it's yeah, was not a fun conversation to have. You know, a little bit of a slap on the wrist, like don't you ever do this again. If you value your ability to get promoted next year or get a good raise or all that good stuff. Kind of ironic considering I got a promotion not a few weeks ago, but how quickly people forget about your attaboys when you have one uh-oh or one oopsie. Is what it is. I'm just gonna. My plan going forward is submit my time reports as soon as they're available to be submitted, and if there's any errors on them, we'll fix those later. But I'm never getting a late time report again, because evidently incorrect time reports are better than late ones. Personally, I really wish our system would just auto submit time reports. Like if we could just set up a template like look, I've been working this project 8 hours every day for the past 3 months here. You can pretty confidently assume that I'm going to continue working this project 8 hours a day until I otherwise change this schedule or, announce that I took some PTO or a sick day. Why do I have to confirm every 2 weeks, hey, I still did this thing I was doing last 2 weeks and the 2 weeks before that and the 2 weeks before that? But I guess that would make too much sense. Or liability or something like that, who knows? Who knows? Personally, I just can't wait until the holidays so I can take another, week-long vacation. Because, God, did Desert Bus feel good. I don't know how many people here tuned into Desert Bus, but um, that was a great week. I mean, aside of the fact I was still recovering from surgery, and Desert Bus is always an emotional roller coaster where I cry more in 1 week than I usually do for the rest of the year, but sometimes you gotta have a good purge of emotion. I'm salaried. I consultants have an interesting system. Our in a sense, we're contractors. We come in, uh, assist another company on a contractual basis, but my employment does not end the second a project ends. Other contractors will be like, well, the contract's ended, now I have to find a new job sort of deal. I can be kicked off a project even and still make my salary. Uh, and that's actually made for some fun interactions with some clients before. Not to name names about companies or people, but I've had some client side managers be like, try and flex their power over me. Like, I could get you kicked off this project. And I have to explain to them, cool. You realize that means nothing to me, right? Go ahead and do it. Yeah, I'm an employee of a consultancy that contracts out its employees. I'm a contractor, but not that type of contractor. Whatever you think I do, it's not that. Yeah, no, our system's a little opposite. Late is bad because late shows up as uh, all zeros for our billing record. Uh, but if it's incorrect, then all that happens is somebody in the accounting department for the project looks at it and says, well, this isn't adding up. let's go check with them. And if I'm like, oh yeah, that number there is a mistake, we have a system in which we can, it's called like PPA. I think it's post prior adjustment or something along those lines, pay period adjustment, prior pay period adjustment, something like that. But basically, we can retroactively change numbers, and as long as it's done before a major billing period for the project, because the our company doesn't get paid every 2 weeks. It gets paid on completion of certain milestones and stuff like that, or as defined by the service agreement. So as long as the number gets fixed by then, nobody cares. And even then, little discrepancies don't really add up to much more as if it's like a fixed cost project or something. So yeah, we've got the complete opposite of what you've got going on there, Randus. And of course, it's much different from, other employees I've been at where it's just like, well, you should probably fill out your time report if you want to get paid. It's like, yeah, I do want to get paid, so I am gonna make sure I fill out this time report. Yeah, that's always annoying there, Marlon. Yeah, coworker solidarity is something. At the end of the day, if somebody isn't pulling their weight, it always is annoying to have to pick up somebody else's slack. Yeah, I do. I sort of miss overtime from being hourly. It was nice being able to be like, well, I had to work extra hours this week, so now I can afford to treat myself to something really fancy this week or something. But then on the other hand, the second I turned salary, that really incentivized me to get all of my work done as early as possible so that I had to only work 40 hours a week, because whether I worked 50 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 60 hours that week, I was still getting paid the same. So I'm gonna get everything done in 40 hours if I can, and say F off after that. Oh, the fanciest food. Yeah, that's why I'm happy with where I'm at in terms of company and position, because we have very clearly defined statements of work and expectation levels for our various employee levels. So, you know, I've recently been promoted to senior consultant from consultant. So only now am I expected to start leading teams. Before that, I would be expected to at most lead work streams. If I'd have particular duties in a project that I was in charge of to work independently on, but I would not be expected to manage other people, because that's a senior consultant or manager level job. And if somebody told me, we want you on this project, I could explicitly tell them that's above my pay grade. I appreciate that, and I'm sure that would look good on my review, but I don't want to. Having boundaries set as to what your role encompasses is very nice, and not something that is firmly established at a lot of corporations, sadly. Many companies like to put in the end of a job description and anything else we tell you to do. And then you end up with situations where you're trying to split the workload of 10 across 6, and it just does not work. Especially when they lay somebody off because, oh, you guys don't need that many members, but then suddenly the workload is unmanageable. Yeah, statement of work discussion is so important in our company. Like, nobody starts on a project until the statement of work is finalized and everybody rolling onto the project knows exactly what their role in that statement of work is and what boundaries there are. So we're not doing work for free for our client. They can't ask us to do things we're not supposed to be doing, stuff like that. Oh yeah. I was before this company, I was firmly in the mindset that if I wanted to ever get anywhere that I wanted to be, I was going to have to bounce around companies every 2 years or so to be able to get the raises I wanted, to be able to do the work I wanted to do, to get the promotions I wanted. all that good stuff. And for the most part, that's true for many people. But this one particular company was just like, no, no, as long as you show merit, you're going to get your promotions when you deserve them. You're going to get massive pay raises with those promotions. We're going to give you cost of living increases that are better than inflation. And we're going to treat you like an actual human being. And so far it's been, well, as of December 11th this year, it will have been 5 years that I've been with this company, and I think I've only thought once or twice over that entire time about maybe considering looking at getting a different job. So I'm one of those rare millennials that is actually happy with their company. Kind of scary. And anybody who says money can't buy happiness is full of it. Because every bit of money you make more up until about 90,000 or $100,000 takes so much dang stress off of your back. Not having to worry about bills, being able to save up a nest egg, ensuring that you always have the ability to pay for your automobile, uh, having your own house, all that good stuff. Like that, that alone takes off so much anxiety. Now, after that, it gets a little more difficult. You can buy into hobbies. Your boy, the Omnicrafter over here, certainly wouldn't be able to have all of the hobbies he does without the excess of money I do. And these hobbies do bring me joy from time to time. But you have to be receptive to that joy. Oh, thank you for pointing that out there, Randus. I will have completely skipped over that. But yeah, no, money. Anybody who tells you money won't buy you happiness doesn't want you to have more money. Because I think everybody should be getting a baseline at least in the current status of the consumer pricing index. $60,000 for every buddy who works would be just monumental in terms of people's mental fiscal health. I mean, yeah, that it certainly depends on how you're getting the money there, Randus. I'm not saying that, yeah, the additional work hasn't caused me to have stressors. But at the same time, I'd also say that um, the amount of work I put in making $15 an hour was far more than I have ever put in, I think, in the past 5 years here, making the various ranges of money I have made at this company. I always have felt like the people that earn the least do the most effort. And, you know, your average day laborers, you know, the amount of stress that is put on their bodies is deeply incongruous to the amount of money they make. Ooh, we are nearly an hour and a half into this stream, and we have not taken a break yet. So I'm gonna say that we should all take a nice 5-minute break, get up, stretch, get some water, use the bathroom, all that good stuff. Pat a dog on the butt if you have one, maybe rub a cat's belly. But we will be back here at 7:28 my time. Alright, and we are back. Hope everybody had a good stretch and all that. So, while we still have this nice icy blue on the palette, I do a little bit of detail work in these little triangles around the small circle. Swapping to a nice fine point brush. This is just going to be a little bit tedious, but sacrifices we make. And shout out to all our lurking friends. Appreciate y'all stopping in and hanging out with us. Honestly, just nice to know that other people are watching and enjoying. In case anyone wasn't aware, I do have a YouTube channel. I think I've got linked below with all of the VODs, previous streams, sans music. If you do want to listen to me ASMR you about my painting or crochet, welcome to it. There we go. That didn't take too long. You know, while we're at it, let's not waste paint. Let's do the rim of these character portraits in this nice icy blue too. Color consistency is nice. The more I can reuse, the better. That's an interesting setup you've got there, Marlon. Do you get a pension with that? I just asked because I know that a lot of states, um, their employees are automatically enrolled in a pension program. I think Michigan has one. It's funny, my dad, who for the most part I don't talk to anymore, actually has two pensions because of who he works for. Yeah. The company is a utility that is both a federal entity, so he gets a federal pension, but at the same time is a state entity, so he gets a state pension. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of 401ks. I've got an IRA that I occasionally pay into. I don't think that with the situation that our world's in, that I'm ever going to see the benefits of a retirement account, which is certainly a fatalistic viewpoint, I know. But I just, I mean, how old do you have to be to cash out of a save retirement account anymore? It's like 67 or something. By the time I'm 67, um, geez, I will be. Wow, I cannot do math right now. We will be in like the 2060s or something like that. 2063, 2061, something like that. Anyways, I don't think that the world's going to be in any good shape come the 2060s. I think betting on our financial system being in good shape by 2065 is that's a crapshoot. I think one thing that would certainly help our lowest classes economically would be fixing our healthcare system, for God's sakes. The amount people have to spend on healthcare plans, health insurance, because their companies are too cheap to support them, either by giving them just barely enough hours that they're part-time but not full-time, so they don't have to pay benefits, or when they do pay benefits, they don't subsidize them at all. Uh, it's frankly disgusting. Yeah, I would not blame you there, Marilyn. Take the best opportunity you can. Hmm. Anything else I can hit with this icy blue before moving on to the next color? No, I think we're good. I think what I want to do next is introduce a different hue of blue to this. Just washing my brushes real quick. Nah, Michigan's minimum wage is only $9.25 an hour. Granted, our cost of living is much lower than a lot of other states, but still not great. Alright, so now gonna look about dropping in some different hues to spice up this palette a bit. Bit of flat blue, bit of cerulean, and mix that in with our leftover icy blue. Change up the hue a bit. This ultramarine tends to be a more purpley shade of blue, while cerulean edges closer towards green. And we'll tint it down as usual. Then hit it with that contrast to thin it out. Let's see what we've got. Hopefully something that we can use to fill in the last bits of these outer rings. And then I've got this Army Painter War Paints Toxic Mist, which is kind of like a, it's kind of like a seafoam, like a very dull aqua. I think I can just add a little bit more blue into that, and we can go ahead and use that for our watercolor. Let's see, is this in down enough? A little bit more water. Still want this to go on smoothly. There we go, that's good. And we'll use this in these patches here. Around what I honestly have no idea what these shapes are supposed to represent. Maybe some of you Kingdom Hearts fans will know what they're meant to be. I mean, for all we know, there is no meaning to them. They're just cute little shapes around the edge, but it'd be cool if there was some implicit meaning to them. I'm just gonna end up painting them the same color green as I am the trees. Treat them like they're little palm fronds or something. Weird, misshapen palm fronds. Sort of curious if the camera is adequately picking up the subtle difference in hue that this current blue I'm using is from the richer ultramarine blue in the area around the crown circles. Because it is slight, but to the human eye it's noticeable. It was always fascinating playing with hue. I'd like to do it more, but the Liquitex soft body mixing set I haven't opened all of the containers yet, and they like to explode when you open them. They've got, you know, the quality seal with the little tabs that you have to pull off in order to make, in order to open it up. Kind of like a ketchup bottle or a mustard bottle. And they just kind of like to explode when you do that. Just the second it opens up to air, a few drops of paint just spray right on out of it, and you have to go ahead and clean that up, and then there's a whole bunch of wasted paint on the top lid too, so I really try to avoid opening them until I actually need those colors for something. And it seemed like it will have been a waste to open up those blues just for this. Also, they are very heavily pigmented, so I will have been using a lot more white to dull them down. Artist acrylics certainly do not mess around. Oh, that's good to hear. Obviously, it's a bit early to tell, but how are things looking on it? I think the shades of blue are playing pretty nicely together. Hopefully, once we start getting in the oranges and reds on Sora here, things start popping out. Ooh. Reminder to everyone to stop shrimping. Yes, that means I was shrimping. I'll admit it. It's not my fault they make desks so much shorter than me. I'm sure y'all would love to watch that. But we're gonna need to get some more money into the tarp budget first. Never enough money in the tarp budget. It's a very important line item there, Randus. If you ever take something off the budget, no guarantee you'll ever get it back again, so you gotta maintain that tarp budget. Personally, the most important line item in my budget is the sushi budget. That that money is reserved. The sushi budget can only increase in value. Alright, well thank you for stopping by, Merlin. Hope you have a good rest of your night and drive safe getting home. Might go a little bit longer this stream, but probably not so long that you'd be able to pick this back up. I think we're just gonna end up finishing this color. And from there, while we have the blue still left on our palette, get that aqua going. And get the sea done. And, well, maybe this will be Thursday's project as well, or maybe I'll finish it up off stream. Who knows? Oh, wait, no, I'm not gonna have a Thursday stream because that's Thanksgiving. Doy. Yeah, no, I know that feeling there, Randus. It's part of the reason I originally didn't want to do a color scheme like this. Because I didn't like how samey it felt. You know, having so much blue. I love blue, don't get me wrong. Blue is my favorite color by far. But so much of it, you know, there's a reason why we love contrasting colors, because they pop. They make everything feel, you know, present. That said, that's where the art theory comes into play. If everything pops, then nothing pops. You want your muted background and your prominent foreground. So all this background we're doing here has to be muted and samey, at least to an extent. And it's Sora who's going to get the blues right next to the oranges and the reds to make him really stand out. But yeah, no, if I ever saw an Excel sheet with a bunch of blue cells next to each other like this, ooh, I would not be a happy camper. I see what you mean. Yeah, and maybe I'll find myself agreeing with you that some areas ended up just a little too samey at the end. But this is still, in a sense, a practice, a test piece. And hopefully the one after this will be the actual final version. Oh yeah, no, I feel ya. I don't know if you were around when I showed this off, uh, but like I said, I really wanted the contrasting. I wanted, the purples with the yellows. I wanted pinks and greens. I wanted everything in here to really just show things off. And it really just pulled a little bit too much away from Sora there. Your eye is just kind of too distracted by everything to really get in on the focus of the piece. So I think in any other project like this where the entirety of the piece is the focus, like if Sora wasn't here and it was just you know all six of them in this frame here, and then the beach background and the rings, then I would love to do a lot of popping colors in here and in the second ring here, and a little bit of greens and yellows on the beach and stuff, and then you get your blues and your off greens out here, and I think that would work great. It's just Sora that's causing troubles there for that because Sora wants to demand focus, and if you don't let him do that, it just falls apart, I think. And a lot of this is just me getting practice in, especially in terms of art theory here, because frankly, it has been a long time since I've actually taken an art class. Um, I'm not classically trained or anything. I just had your standard arts and crafts back in public school, and then like a couple art history classes in college for electives. But for the most part, art is very rusty to me. Um, these various things that humans have over centuries and millennia figured out. I'm not working with that right now. I'm working with some of it, but I'm in part reinventing the wheel. And there's some fun aspects to that, certainly, but other times it's like, well, maybe if I had just crack open a book before doing this stream, I could skip a few steps. But where's the fun in that? I mean, sort of the same reason people watch streamers play horror games is that they want to see people out of their element. They want to see failure. They want to see confusion and making it past that. Because if I just came on here and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to make this perfect, well, there's some entertainment value in that, but I think learning is a process that definitely has more appeal. Yeah, I was also thinking about that. I even brought in from my paint rack here this Stonewall Gray in case I wanted to do that shading. And I might honestly do that for my next attempt on this if I don't like how this turns out. We'll see. There's definitely multiple ways to go about it. Contrast can be formed in many ways. The one thing I would say with black mixes over like a medium gray is that you got to be very careful with how much black you add. The tiniest amount of black goes the longest way in terms of tinting because pigment is a reductive um, process. Everything trends to black as it is while you're mixing. So the littlest amount of black is going to have the largest effect, and you're very going to quickly have muddy colors, or just end up at slightly tinted black for a lot of things, unless you're careful. And forming differentiations between hues when you're that low on the color scale is also an issue. But it is definitely worth a try. I do think, assuming I have enough time between other things I'm doing, be interested in trying this piece in a total of 3 ways. Same color scheme, but one using, like we're doing now, the white tints, another using gray to desaturate, and another using blacks to shade, and see where that brings us, which one of them looks the best. Alright, just one more of these to go. Yeah, no, I'm not afraid to admit I don't really know that much about Kingdom Hearts. Um, watched some bits of Let's Plays. I know there's a lot of Disney characters. I know that you You gotta deal with Xehanort Norden boys. There are things called Shadows and other things called Heartless. And I honestly cannot understand 90% of all of that because it does sound like it gets pretty funky. But, did I run to the end of this playlist? That's impressive. Let's put on. What sounds good after all that electro swing? How about some classic rock? Where was I going? I completely lost my train of thought on that. No big deal. I haven't opened this up in a while. Let's see if this paint's even any good. Oh, that's not too bad. Army Painter has some issues with separation and clumping. Got so bad that they ended up having to completely change their system, and they started including dropper balls right in their paint bottles, just so that they would actually mix up easier. There we go. That's actually a nice aqua, a little desaturated from the paint we just mixed in. Still got that little green tint to it. Yeah. I've watched that the Brian David Gilbert video on trying to explain the hero's journey within Kingdom Hearts and how it just so quickly falls apart, especially with all the different games they have. Kingdom Hearts 358 divided by 2 days. That's a nice blue. I like that. The one nice thing about Army Painter is what is usually a downside for a lot of paints is it's a very thin paint right out of the pot. A lot of people actually prefer their paints thick out of the pot so that they can thin them and get more use out of them. But for just quickly painting up an army or something, having a pre-thinned pot is always nice. I think they still are the same amount of volume. Like it'll still say like 17 milliliters on the bottle. I think they changed the bottle to accommodate the ball. But yeah, it's meant to act as an agitator because when you shake it without the ball, you're just slopping the paint around side to side, hoping that the paint will agitate itself, mix itself up. With the ball inside, you're adding something with a lot more mass that is taking that momentum better and smashing itself into the paint particles in the medium and the solvent and forcing it to get mixed together. Sort of like the difference between if you had a just an empty bottle with your protein powder and your water in it versus having the mixer ball in it. So I'll actually, especially with older paints, I've got this bag here of little 4mm glass beads that I'll drop into the paint bottles, about 1 or 2 of them depending on the bottle size, um, just to actually help with the agitation. And I prefer glass over stainless steel ball bearings, because while stainless steel ball bearings are more plentiful to find, no matter how stainless they say they are, they're still usually cheap Chinese balls with just a stainless plating, and you're going to get rust in your bottles eventually. Uh, and that, obviously mixing iron oxide into your non-red paints is going to make them a bit different colored. And you don't want that. I think while we've got this on our palette, since we're going to be wrapping up the stream real quick after this anyways, we are going to use this aqua to fill in these last little triangles around these character portrait area. Because why not? I think I'm gonna also add in some grays later. Like this outer ring here, probably be good in a gray. I think that's one of the things I could have done differently too. Instead of using a lot of blues in this outer frame, use some silvery grays to break it up a bit more. Something to consider later. That being said, a lot of Sora and this guy, Riku, I think his name is, a lot of their color scheme is pretty gray too, so maybe not as necessary once we get some of the plant stuff on, like these clouds, of course, gonna be white and gray. The Keyblade is going to have a dark gray shaft with some brighter gray highlights, chains and zippers all over the place, buckles, whatever these hand disc things are. I do not understand. Like, this is a Square Enix game, I assume. Um, it has to be because it has Sephiroth and junk in it. Uh, I do not understand Square Enix's obsession with putting buckles and latches on everything. Like, sometimes it comes out looking pretty good, I'll admit, but it is certainly a design choice that they use a lot of. But yeah, I think we did pretty good today. I think this is a good place to start, and we'll pick it up at some point in the coming week. Maybe this is going to be a Saturday thing, but thank you all for joining me again today. Now, it's been a bit since the last stream. I hope you'll come back for the next one. I'm just vamping a bit while I look to see if there's anybody worth um, tossing to. Oh, look. Lumi is playing some Batman Arkham City, so we're going to toss it over to him. And, yeah, that ought to be some fun. Alright, well, thanks again to everybody. You all have a good rest of your night, and do something kind for yourself. Start raid.